Yo, Joburg, everybody! This is episode 351 of GI Joburg. My name is Steve. This guy is
Paul.
No, it's Rob. Welcome. Hello.
It's Paul. Hey, Bergforce. And yeah, Robbie just said, how's it as well? So
I did. Welcome.
how's it?
of awkward.
We have got a great little grab bag of random topics in 351, kicking things off with a little looking back at this year in cinema, 1984. It's almost my birthday, and it's a big one. It's the big 40, but I'm not the only thing turning 40 this year. And a little film franchise called Terminator. Might have heard of it. Anyways, we're going to talk a little bit about our memories associated with James Cameron's number one with a bullet. I mean, you knew he was something special when he produced The Terminator back in 84. We are also going to talk about our speculations about the new Super 7 O-ring reveals. It's Serpentor, it's Ramar, it's a Fatal Fluffy, and rounding things out, it's Duke. What are they going to look like? What do we expect? What is our expectation level at? We're going to talk a bit about that. We're also going to talk about GI Joe in Lego bricks, or Lego adjacent bricks, with the new Mega set, featuring the Skystriker with Ace and Duke, and the HiSS tank, HiSS, with Cobra Commander and a HiSS driver. Then rounding things out, we are going to get into GI Joe Energon Universe by Skybound, issue number 1. The big day has arrived.
It's finally here.
Our honest opinions, our candid opinions will be shoved all the way at the end of this podcast. Because yes, ladies and gentlemen, whether you care or don't, there are severe spoilers in that book and in our discussion of it. So stick around if you don't want to be spoiled, or if you have read it. No, stick around if you don't mind being spoiled, or if you have read it. And if you haven't read it and don't want to be spoiled, you can jump off when we are done talking new shit. Anyway,
We will warn you, though.
I feel like that's a whole lot of admin when I really want to be talking about movies. Gents,
Terminator.
Insane.
when was the first time you both watched The Terminator? At the same time. I don't think that day has come to pass. Rob,
I feel
how
like
about
it was on
what's the story?
TV. I feel it was on TV, probably like SBC 1 or SBC 3 or something. Probably like a late night Saturday movie or something.
Please tell me, Paul, you have the same memory. Or did you rent it?
No, I watched it on videotape. I actually watched the second one first, actually.
I'm pretty sure we all did.
Yeah.
Maybe.
In 1992, if I'm not mistaken.
1992. Whoa!
Yeah.
I'm hearing that year as well. I think it was broadcast on SABC TV in 92, and this was quite an event because I was at a birthday party, a sleepover birthday party in 92. Bunch of 7-year-olds all curled up in sleeping bags in the kind of the back patio of Kyle Hatred's house. Yeah, that's his real name.
out.
Hatred. Shout out to Kyle.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Are you a supervillain now, Kyle?
dude,
Asking for a friend.
his parents put the Terminator on, but because it was SABC TV in the
Supervillain.
90s, it was censored. They had actually edited it, cut it down to reduce all swearing. There definitely weren't any nudie scenes in.
We
in
got
that
like the Hungarian version.
No, the SABC of the time, the South African Broadcast Commission of the time, used to actually actively suture films. I mean, I remember having Commando taped from SABC, and that was hacked to pieces.
Absolutely.
Like when I actually watched
I'll hug you
Commando-
last.
Yeah,
You're like-
dude.
It's weird. There's this entire scene in that little shed. Like he runs off injured and he comes back.
Jump
this
cut.
scene in the shed never happened where he chops people to pieces with the saw blades.
Well, guys, I had the same experience watching The Terminator. I rented it from Amazon last night in preparation of this, and seeing shit I just do not remember, and seeing it in like far better definition than I ever recall seeing. Because I must have watched that. Okay, so my parents that same night in my own household taped it for me.
Mm.
So even though I didn't actually stay awake long to watch it at the sleepover party, because I'm sure we all hit the wall after our sugar highs, birthday cake, sweets, et al.
Mm.
I got to watch the rest of it at home. I mean, it's baffling to me. Would I let a 7-year-old watch The Terminator? I guess I'll find out. Yeah. But seeing it in high definition, like remastered or whatever it was, and upscale, like you see a lot more detail than you might have missed out on. And boy, oh boy, do you see Schwarzenegger Jr. flapping about as he approaches the punks for their
Bill
clothes.
Paxton.
Bill Paxton in the mix, yeah.
Yeah.
With his spiky blue hairdo. But yeah, no, I definitely don't remember seeing Arnie's dong.
I had the same. Actually, I mean, even though I own it on Blu-ray and I've watched it recently,
Such a most watched section.
Yeah, no, always just love
Sorry,
to like
I can't
replay
help
that
myself.
shit.
I think probably
Actually,
the last time
I keep forgetting
yeah.
that's in there. Yeah, actually.
And it can't be
His
a body
dong.
double because I've seen Arnie's body double from.
You've seen
the
Arnie's
Terminator.
schlong.
No, you know, they're photos of him
Steve
standing
can
with his body
confirm.
double, and they just don't look enough alike for it to not be Arnold. Anyway, I didn't mean
talk
to
about-
get into this discussion of Arnold's on-screen nudity, but Rob, you had something to add.
Oh, I was going to say, I don't think I've ever seen it uncensored. I think probably the most I've ever watched it is probably at your place, off that videotape. So I should actually probably rewatch it and discover a completely brand new movie at some point.
Well, the future
Like Alien.
Mrs. Cameron, Linda Hamilton, has a sex scene with Michael Bean. You might have missed
Wow.
out on that in the SABC cut down.
Yeah,
must have
I
been
don't ever
cool.
remember that.
Directing your directing someone that you are interested in simulated sex with your other lead actor. Interesting times. But yeah, James Cameron, one thing's for damn sure, he makes good movies, but he also rinses through marriages like nobody's business. He's got to make
he's
that
not an
big
easy
bank
guy.
to pay for his divorces.
Coming back to your comment about or your question about who lets a 7-year-old watch Terminator or whatever. So I think this might be a fun tidbit for our listeners.
This guy's
I
parents.
was that kid that had okay, you know that kid where their parents allowed them to watch like crazy stuff, and then you go over to their place to like hang out or whatever, and then you don't tell your parents that you watch crazy ass movies. Yeah, I was that kid. I used to I mentioned it before on the podcast, but I used to have the privilege of getting a videotape, a rental, like every Friday, and this went on for a long time in my life. And yeah, many people around me were introduced to Jason Voorhees, Freddy Krueger, Terminator 2. Yeah, they watched all of the nasty stuff, and obviously, slasher films have lots of boobs in, so I think a lot of them had a bit of an education.
Incredible.
Satanic Panic,
Yeah.
Alive and Well with Paul Loebscher.
Hell yeah,
Guys,
I'm all about
something
that.
else that pinged in my
fucking hysteria,
memory
actually.
while recalling this very eventful night of watching The Terminator for the first time. I pitched up at that birthday party with a pair of branded GI Joe sunglasses. 'Cause back in the late 80s, early 90s, GI Joe had such strong brand presence that a bunch of like crappy plastic toy manufacturers just stuck stickers on.
Yeah, we had
like,
plates
sunglasses.
and cups and all kinds of shit for like parties and stuff.
And one of the lasting, well, I'm going to get into the influence of the Terminator in a minute, but like a very peripheral one is the fact that after watching the film, those sunglasses, I stuck little cardboard like targeting reticles on the lenses. Because I was like, if I am a robot, I've got to have these like targets on my eyes at all times. Too cool.
So cool.
Now, there's our word again. Zing. Very cool. Now, there are three major like influences that the Terminator had, like profound ones that the Terminator had on the way I played. The first one was, even without toys, if you had a pencil and some paper, be it lined foolscap paper or just blank paper, you have a game. And that is just doodling. Paul, I'm sure you can attest to this. Like,
Oh,
I
yeah.
would incessantly draw and redraw the endoskeleton. The idea of a robotic metal skeletal like combat chassis was something so exciting to me as a child. And I love getting a very, very fine tipped pencil, like sharpened within an inch of its life, and getting into the absolute greeblies of this endoskeleton. And I kind of riffed with it. Like, I gave it more equipment than an endoskeleton would have. Maybe I was prescient. I mean, in Terminator Salvation, you see Terminators that have like drum fed like machine guns with the drums on the backs. Like, I used to do that with my endos, like put a big bullet drum on the back, have a belt leading to a minigun in the arm, stuff like that. And just endless like muzzle bursts and bullet casings flying everywhere. But at the same time as drawing these hyper detailed like endoskeletons, if I had foolscap paper, I would create a sort of an underground complex with each line being a different level and it's being overrun by Terminators and having like little stick figures and Terminators waging war throughout various levels of this underground complex. Just super cool. Anytime I got an opportunity to play out the future war stuff, even with a pencil and paper, very exciting times.
Yeah,
Oh,
I can
and
totally relate to that.
my first note when watching the Terminator Future War sections last night, that's totally Solid Snake. Every time.
Oh yeah,
That
Actually-
ad,
Heavy influence it must have been.
dude. Yeah,
I can picture it now. It just says Gear Up, and it's the Metal Gear ad for NES.
yeah.
It's
With
like got the various items, the glove, the rocket, the infrared goggles.
and then Michael and that pose for the
That
art as well.
pose.
Michael Bean's pose is from Terminator.
Before I knew
box
what
art?
Metal Gear was, I fawned over that ad. It just seemed like, wow, there's a video game where you have all these different items that all do different things. This seemed pretty mind-blowing for someone who had only played like Contra to that point.
Yeah,
This
From
is
the
a
same people
different
who-
kind of gun, and this is a different kind of gun, and that's pretty much the only variation you get.
and rapid. I want to add to that actually because
Yeah.
I've been watching some like fun old movies recently. One of them being Predator 2, and I love Predator
do
2
all
by
for
the way.
this
I
shit.
think Predator 2. Yeah, exactly. But Predator 2 is great.
Wasn't Danny Glover
Um,
like 35 in Lethal Weapon?
Yeah,
That was old back then.
Mind
but
blowing.
Predator 2 was like a really big film for me as well. I remember seeing that, and I just love that whole era of films. Like, so you had like, Terminator. Okay, for me it was Terminator 2. You had Predator. It was like explosions. It was just amazing. There was just this brand of action film, but they had so much swearing, especially Predator. And there's this great moment in there where Gary Busey's got it's like a freezing gun, but I shot a still to you, gents. But to describe
so
it to you
that's
guys,
what that
Gary
was.
Busey's holding this, and
Aye, Paul, with
he's
no
holding this-
context, he sends us a picture taken from Predator
Well,
2.
it's a bit
I
of
didn't know it was from
trivia.
Predator 2.
That's a bit of trivia. I want to see if any of you guys would get it, or ask where it's from. But it's
I
such a
thought it
cool
was
shot for like
Ghostbusters.
Eco Force.
Knowing you, I thought it was Ghostbusters.
Well, that's the thing, right? When you look at that, you can actually see almost where Eco Warriors, I said Eco Force again earlier, but Eco Warriors kind of feels like it was born from that like one moment. Anyway, coming back to Terminator and how that influenced you. I mean, for me, it was just drawing as well. I love the idea of human beings, or robots, should I say, disguised as human beings. I love that. I'm like, and so, there's stuff in the Terminator when you see the hand and things like that were always just super like inspiring for me. And also the skin missing from the face, see the eye, like that. I used to love that. I still love that. I mean,
The SABC
I
didn't
lean
love
into
that because
hard.
I think I was 39 years old before I actually saw him completely gouging his eye out. I mean, it's shot quite obscurely, but not
Not
as
sponsored.
obscurely as censors in South Africa in the early 90s would have liked.
it to
because
be.
a lot of that was also hacked out. Man, oh man. Guys, the other profound way that the Terminator influenced play, and Rob, you can speak to this. We had a pair of Super Soakers, the classic Leonard orange with the yellow
50.
bottles.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I don't know.
Mine was yellow with the green bottle. I had a 50 or 250, I think it was. I don't remember. Anyway.
Well, Rob and I would
They were
LARP.
really cool.
We would LARP the Future Wars sections of
So cool.
Terminator. And not only that, we would kind of mix in, because I think we also might have seen Terminator 2 first.
Yeah, I think that's probably quite true, because it's interesting to see that this action movie comes from this more tense, almost horror film.
Yeah.
Mm.
So I think definitely the action of the second one was what made us very excited to run around, destroying.
Because
robots.
our guns, I think they had two settings. The one was to sort of freeze T-1000s, and the other was to melt them with the molten lava.
Like the arcade game.
Oh, really?
The arcade game had that as a feature, yeah. You shot
Maybe
ice
that was an influence too.
for the
I'm
last
sure
boss.
I ogled a Terminator 2 cabinet many a time.
For sure,
Yeah.
they must have had them at center, maybe.
Yeah, they were
somewhere
everywhere,
near
dude.
Cavendish.
I'm thinking, what's the
in
one
one
in
city?
Weinberg?
Oh,
They
Maynard
in
Mall.
one-
Maynard Mall.
Yes, they did have an arcade. They had a big arcade,
Smoke-
I think.
Smoke and Token was the name of the arcade in Maynard Mall.
Mm.
Clever.
Mhm. That's where I saw Afterburner for the first time.
I'm
with
sure
the
lots of
chair.
people were smoking and token there.
Oh, it takes me back, man. The whole idea that you could light up a cigarette in an arcade. Kids these days don't know
Anyway.
what they're missing, man.
Anyway,
The fact that arcade machines had ashtrays.
Yeah.
Do you guys
Well,
remember?
I mean,
Yeah.
it might shock you to know this, or you might completely expect it, but you can still light up a cigarette in a Chinese arcade.
hmm.
Mm-hmm. So I'm
And in-
seeing
I'm surprised.
parents with a
casinos.
stroller on one hand, and then some dudes craned over some kind of
Playing Street Fighter.
gacha card catching machine with a fag in his mouth.
Well,
Very funny.
casinos in South Africa, you can still do that. They have smoking sections, because you're not going to turn away
smoking
someone who's
casinos.
addicted to gambling and smoking.
No,
Yeah,
no.
I mean,
You can't have them
feed it.
leaving the casino every time they want a cigarette. You give them a section where they can sit, smoke, and continue to gamble.
Rob, it would be more remarkable if there was a DDR machine in the smoking section.
Oh, absolutely. That would be great if there was an actual arcade
Arcade.
section in a casino where you could smoke. I mean, that's
Now
just
that
Well,
is
there
niche
was.
of niche.
that's wild.
Sun City used to have that. The arcade was
Yeah.
on that raised atrium area above the one part of the casino, and people smoked there, and they smoked in the arcade as well.
Filthy
Used to
I
until
remember-
when? Until when?
I
you're
remember-
saying here?
I remember smoking in arcades in Cresta.
Oh, okay. So this is in
and
the last
Foy's.
12, 20 years or something. Okay,
Yeah,
that's
and,
wild.
And just coming back to something like Terminator, just for the record, when I went to Cape Town in early 2000, let's say I think it was 2002, at 2002, 2003, N1 City actually still had a Terminator arcade machine.
Mm.
Saved
Now the
future.
final profound influence the Terminator had on playing with toys brings it back home to GI Joe.
There
Because as I recall, the theme of running from the Michael Myers type, unkillable killer, wasn't as easily played out with action figures, because it was a far more subtle personal story. Sure, it was fun to have unkillable enemies, and to that end, I think we used to use a Target, Rob, as a sort of a T-1000, simply because it had a gold face. Underneath that blast shield was just a gold face, which we deemed to mean that his innards, underneath his clothes, was all liquid metal.
Yes.
But that didn't get nearly as much play as the concept of once your room was completely bombed out after you'd taken everything out and played with it and whatnot, and you just had a room of crap everywhere, then it was the perfect time to play out a future war scenario. Those sequences of the first and second films were so evocative, and you only ever got a taste of them in each, but they were so well shot, so vivid, so beautiful, so inspirational, that like we just wanted to do that. Light the room with like uplighting from like behind piles of rubble, other discarded vehicles and things. Everything could just sit as it was, and we create
it was
this
perfect for it. Yeah, for landscape. I mean, just things piling around, sitting wherever they needed to be, just to have fun. After you played one story, and I can continue a completely different story.
So much
really
so,
extended
Rob,
playtime.
we created an alternate reality that our characters would sometimes have to dip into of necessity for some like objective, and this was like a war planet with the entire surface of the planet ravaged by war. It was always this kind of perpetual midnight with laser flashes on the horizon and giant machines hunting resistance fighters. You even had a character who's nicknamed French Resistance.
Yes.
Hey, French Resistance, and he spoke with a French accent.
Indeed, he did.
Oh man, good times. Good
That's
times.
what she's not lost.
Part of our shifters storyline, which
Bingo.
we discuss quite often. Our
Not often
time
enough,
traveling, universe hopping. Yeah, I mean the film itself is great. It just introduces these great concepts to kind of build, the actual story onto. Robots in disguise, future war, time travel. It's just ripe for ideas. It's a
so much fodder for
universe.
kids of that era, with action figures and all the time in the world. It seems to kind of tease out these concepts. Yeah, the influence of the Terminator on my play, profound, can't be overstated.
Huge.
And I know, you feel the same way, Rob.
Absolutely.
I'm curious, Paul, what, if any, influence did the Terminator have on actual like toy play? We spoke about drawing, we spoke about arcade gaming.
So, I'm sorry to
any of
report
your figures become machines.
Okay, so basically, and I have mentioned this before, but I think this is a cool episode to kind of cement that in here. Anything with the helmet that wasn't removable was a robot in my mind. So Crimson Guards were robots, Iron Grenadiers were robots, Targets were robots, Annihilators, Heat, etc. They were
Bats were
all
robots.
cyborgs. So like, bats were older, were not as technologically sound as the other ones, because the bats couldn't do like ninja shit. The other ones could. So they were more like, that was always the vibe for me. And I don't know if you guys recall like Robocop 3 cinematic treat that it is.
I try not to.
The villain robot in that movie, because that's
Otomo.
what the studios reduced it down to, is making it about a robot versus a robot. But the Otomo is a Japanese-made like sort of ninja robot, and it's got agility and it can jump and stuff. So we actually took a lot more from that, should I say, than from like Terminator. And so Terminator had very little. Even time travel is something that we didn't really want to mess around with too much in GI Joe, in our GI Joe play, just because it's just got like silly, except for like one or two like special attacks where a character would unleash some kind of ability to be able to go back in time and like smash the shit out of you and then bring it back in, and then you would have all of that damage in your present state, and then you
that's cool.
More. Yeah, so stuff like that. That was but no, Terminator had almost zero effect on our GI Joe play.
Wow.
Like, it's actually quite surprising if I think about it, like why we didn't lean into that. I mean, we even had Predator introduced two things into GI Joe play, and just block your kids' ears. My GI Joe play was given a hunter type character, which was the Range Viper sometimes, and the word motherfucker. Those are two things that were introduced to GI Joe play, thanks to the
Of your
Predator.
figures,
But
who was the
Terminator,
ugly
nothing.
motherfucker?
Oh, dude, it was Range Viper. We used Range Viper quite a lot because he had that skeletal face.
Nice.
And I also feel like Range Viper would work as well as like as a Terminator, as an endoskeleton analog as well.
I mean, the brain section of the back of the helmet could be the Predator dreads, just like cornrowed.
Yeah.
Feels like that to me.
Oh, absolutely.
But we liked that kind of idea. But for the most part, sorry guys, like it's sad, but like It didn't do that. Even like now, when I think about GI Joe stuff, I just don't put the two together. It's very foreign
Did you
for me.
guys ever lean into the Kenner action figure line?
That's something I was hoping you would bring up.
Mission accomplished.
Never ever wanted to, but never
Yeah.
ever got one. Saw them at Cresta CNA once on a Friday evening when we went to go watch movies. We didn't have enough money to buy a toy for ourselves, so we watched the movie, and I asked them if I could come back the next day on Saturday to go and get them. And obviously, an adult collector, a grown-up collector, went and snagged them all. Must have. The only way.
Jeez,
They were
there
gone.
was such a thing back then.
Mm.
But that's curious to me, Paul, because I mean, it wasn't that you didn't want them. It was
Yeah, I
that
wanted them.
It was a target of opportunity, and you missed your opportunity. I distinctly
Yeah.
remember not wanting them. Like I bought a T1000 because it was sold to me by the gimmick. It was the most sort of normal looking. Yeah, it had a blast apart action.
Split apart thing. Yeah.
But unfortunately, the blast apart action on the packaging was kind of sold using art. Of course, the artist went ballistic on showing this thing exploding. It sort of had sort of bits, like gooey bits, basically flinging out of its.
Yeah, it looked a
Bro,
lot
you
more
were hoping it would
bombastic
have
than
tanks.
what the actual thing was.
It looked like maybe there was some mixed medium going on in there, that you were actually using like silver slime combined with plastic parts. But
Wow,
no, it
silver
really just
slime
was
would
a
be
front.
awesome.
It was a front chest shell, a back chest shell, and a kind of an innard bit that would pop off of his legs. And that was kind of disappointing. I mean, all of those figures were not screen accurate in that there was always something toyified about them. It was typical of Kenner to do that. Like their alien line was nothing accurate
It's
to
such
the
a cool
film.
toy line, though.
Nothing screen accurate. So
It felt like they were making them into a cartoon. You know, it was like
that never
these were
transpired.
figures of the cartoons. But
Like,
very
all
stylized.
the Terminators were either sold out on a gimmick or they were battle damaged. Like there wasn't something that looked like Arnie in the film.
Sorry, I'm just imagining the Terminator cartoon. John Connor. Yes, we should hide away. That guy is something suspect. Okay. God, it would be hilarious. I'd watch that shit. That's a
The
robot
Terminator
dog.
doesn't make for a very good episodic type of storytelling because it's very much like
John.
we got to run from this thing until either it gets us or we stop it, and that's it.
Yeah.
Like to do that week to week or day to day.
But just the concept of having a toy line based off an adult movie. I mean, it was probably 16 and up. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
Nothing new, Rob. Come on.
I know it isn't anything new, but it's just wild.
Yeah.
It's so cool they do that. You know, it's like you can't watch the movie, but you can get the toys based off the movie.
And it's so clever because it creates an investment in you. You as a kid invest in that brand, and you go, when I grow up, I will watch this movie because I'll be allowed to, and then you rent it.
Look, it depends on
from the companies.
It depends on what kind of parents you have as well, because my folks were very laissez-faire about this stuff. In fact, I distinctly remember asking my dad, like, so what's the Terminator all about? And what's Terminator 2 all about? And he gave me the blow-by-blow and spoiled it for me. Asshole. Like, in Terminator 2, Arnold's the good guy. In Terminator 1, Arnold's the bad guy. Okay, thanks, Dad. But he had no problem renting it out for me. The same thing with Aliens. And that was a problem. I wound up spending several nights in my parents' bed after watching Aliens for the first time.
Well, that's why they did it to us, dude. Because our parents were just like, let them. You know, have your trauma. Like, let's like not protect them from it. Like, there, go, have it. Go. There we go. See if you like that. And that's how some kids learned that they don't like horror movies. And some kids learned that they like more. They want more. You know?
Getting back to the Kenner toy line, though, the best thing that I can pull from it now as an adult is those endoskeletons that they made that had like this sort of the vertical like hydraulics that you see in an endo's waist were actually elastic, like they were rubberized. So you twisted in one way and it would spring back the other way.
Oh, that's
a lovely little feature, and they made for very good endos as a result. I think they had light piping as well in the tops of their craniums. which would give you the red glowing eyes. So well made there. Kind of wished I'd bought those at retail back in the day. But I got my chance in
Yeah.
the Salvation line where I just absolutely cleaned up on 3 3/4 inch scale endoskeletons.
And they're
I feel
great
like-
as action figures because you can articulate them so easily because of the robot
Joints.
nature.
Bendiness.
The exposed joints.
No.
Well, yes.
Yeah.
I suppose some of them, because they were quite thin in the forearms, etc., they had a bendiness. But you could also, as you say, Rob, like conceal their joints better.
I think there's such a great like argument to be made for like sending R-rated properties action figures to kids, as I mentioned before, and also guys, Rob, you mentioned it's like hectic forward thinking. In that time with marketing, you could do the slow burn. You could say, okay, this generation, whatever generation is going to see it, add 5 years to that, because that would be their brand investment, and they'll actually, that brand investment will decline or it will incline. It will go, it'll increase.
Either
as
goes
time
up or goes
passes.
down. Yeah.
Right. And so, but that's why they would be like sequelitis, because they'd release sequels and things like that to catch that generation that's now like just old enough to watch their films. And why they would always like skirt the line between R-rated and try to get their films just below R-rated. It's a whole marketing science. It's actually very clever. And I love it. I love it to bits because it introduced me to cool stuff as a kid. Alien, okay, mind you, I didn't need the Alien toys to get me into the movies. I was into the movies, and then I saw the toys. I was like, yeah, this is rad. Another toy line I just want to mention with the Terminator stuff was Predator. Predator had the same experience. Saw Predator figures in the CNA at Cresta. It was a situation of I really wanted one, and my mom was like, no, but to be fair, I'd already got some other toy. And I can't even remember what the toy I got was. That's how bad it is sometimes, I remember the thing I didn't get. And then also when I went back, they were all gone. And a part of me like felt that maybe it was like a fever dream. Like, did they really exist? Was I really paying attention? And then I have seen secondhand Predator and Terminator toys in secondhand lots here locally that were purchased, and some similar figures here and there, but like usually broken. So when the Alien thing happened, I wasn't going to pass up on that. I saw the aliens there, and I grabbed the Scorpion alien, and they had another one, and I grabbed the other one for David, because I was like, it'd be cool to get David an aliens figure. And then we basically just built a huge collection of the aliens. None of us actually owned a human being from Alien either, to be fair. So, anyway, that's just a bit of a
me
spin-off.
because they very uniquely came with like stickers that you had carte blanche just to where to apply them to the guns, the uniforms. Like a sticker sheet for an action figure is something pretty novel to me anyway. Like I never had a mail-away Duke, obviously, so I never, or a Dress Blues Gung Ho, so I never got a GI Joe with a sticker that was supposed to go onto him. And of course, I never owned a Zartan back in the day. Like all the stickers on my Zartans are already
pre-applied. Someone else got to have that privilege.
To this topic, I want to ask you guys. It's a bit of a don't want to say it's a GI Joe trivia question, but maybe just to inspire some thoughts. And this is also for you, dear listeners. How much of the GI Joe animation series and the comic book do you think was inspired by Terminator? There are two moments in the cartoon that I can think of that are very, very like kind of close to Terminator. The one thing is I keep wanting to call it Days of Future Past, but it's not Days of Future Past.
The alternate timeline one.
A World Without End.
What's his name?
Yeah. So the World Without End timeline really does feel like it's heavily inspired by Terminator. It's a world that's constantly at war, and there's these factions and whatever's of human resistance.
Yeah,
These pockets
I could
of
see
human
that
resistance.
being influenced by Terminator for sure.
Definitely felt that was the kid-friendly way of trying to sell that concept in a cartoon. And then another one. Now, this is weird because this obviously happened way before Terminator 2 did, which is why I think somebody loved this in the cartoon and made and helped to envision the visual for Terminator 2 is the synthoids. I think that the concept of a synthoid, if not the root inspiration, is definitely one of the pieces of inspiration that went into the T-1000. Because the synthoids, obviously, if you guys don't know what a synthoid is, It's a sort of gelatinous goop that can replicate a human being, and it looks like, like a normal person, and it behaves like them to a degree, but it melts, it melts when
Yeah,
it's
like a
deactivated.
T1000. It could have been. I mean,
Yeah.
the influences of the T1000 could have come from hundreds of places, really.
Definitely, but I can't think of something that is as elemental, like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like
So
before
you
the
think-
Timeline doesn't
think-
dovetail well with the Synthoids because Terminator 2 is a film of the 90s.
91, yeah.
That's why I'm saying the Synthoids inspired the T1000.
So you think Cameron was watching an episode of GI Joe and was
Not
like,
Cameron,
that would
I
be a
think-
cool thing for my second outing.
I think
be the
somebody at
villain.
Stan Winston's
Right.
is a big GI Joe fan, and saw that and thought, oh, that's novel, and may
Why
not
not
have been
use
like
that?
consciously aware of it, but I think that was a very heavy influencer.
That and
Just,
playing with mercury and magnets.
Yeah,
Like we all
Mercury and
did in
Magnus is the
high school physics.
best.
GI Joe was not afraid of like really wearing its influences on its sleeve.
Mm-hmm.
I have this issue 153 that I have acquired recently.
I got that too.
Yeah. With
Whoa.
Scarlet on the cover, and she's being hunted by absolutely an analog to the Terminator.
Actually, going to mention that exact
very
same one.
much so. That's
And
crazy.
there's a mission that they have, I think, on Cobra Island or something like that. Duke's leading, and they encounter also just very skeletal bats, like bats without clothes on, are dead T101s.
Do they have
Mhm.
schlongs?
Hybridyne System Model 101.
You can tell. Sorry.
And your quickfire topic just reminded me of one that I had. 1984, 40 years ago. My goodness, watching those actors in the Terminator makes you wonder. Like, these guys must have been all under 40. Like Lance Henriksen looks weathered, man. They just don't make him like that anymore. Actors in their mid to late 30s of the 80s looked old. Actors of
Yeah.
the mid to late 30s of the now, boy oh boy, I don't know what they're doing. Injecting themselves
It's
with bee venom or something. It's like numbing their
it's also,
face.
it's also the changing of fashions and stuff. Like, it's because I believe it has something to do with the coding of the general look. So if you see someone in a certain fashion sense, it's coded older for you. So you actually naturally they look older to you because you
Well,
you
there's
associate
that meme
the
that goes
fashion
around
that
with,
they wear with an older
With
generation.
what's his name? Alexander, Greg Alexander. What's the guy from Seinfeld plays George Costanza?
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
So he's the same
George.
age as Timothy Chalamet is now.
Yeah,
When he
isn't
started
that
Seinfeld.
insane?
It's like the one looks
Wow.
like a man, the other looks like a boy.
Look a child. Yeah, that is absolutely insane. But to wrap this up, if
Genetics.
the other movies that turned 40 this year, so these are the top 10 grossing movies in
Ghostbusters.
1984.
Oh my
Number 1 was Ghostbusters.
Mm-hmm.
goodness.
Number 2, Beverly
Back to
Hills
the
Cop.
Future.
Oof,
Number 3, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom.
Ugh.
huge.
Number 4, Gremlins. Number 5, The Karate Kid. Number 6, Police
Yeah.
Academy. Number 7, Footloose. Number 8, Romancing the Stone. Number 9, Star
Yeah.
Trek 3, The Search for Spock. And number 10, Splash. How many of those have influenced our times in playing?
Definitely Splash, bro. How many times have I thrown a GI Joe in the water and be like, oh shit, it's not a mermaid?
I'm splashing. Now it's a mermaid. 100% for sure.
I had a thing
Ooh.
for mermaids, man. Between Splash and The Little Mermaid, like
Oh yeah, no, like the mermaids were the best back then.
bit of a
I don't know what you mean.
pre-adolescent awakening going on there. Interesting. I mean, 84 was a huge year. I can't say I was
Yeah.
a big like Beverly Hills Cop fan, but that was huge. Ghostbusters,
Oh, I
massive.
love Beverly.
Yeah,
Of
and
that
yes, some
list,
people may poo-poo Temple of Doom, but I still think it was probably one of the first that I watched of the originals. I think Temple
It
of
was the
Doom
one that we
first one I
all spoke about as kids. It's like, oh, it's the one with the brains and the eyeballs
yes, in the heart.
and
snakes.
Kalima and all that
Very
shit.
memorable
Fuck
for a
me.
young person to watch.
I want a special edition cut of that where you can just block out her screaming. take out her screaming in that film, and I can enjoy it. But
I'm no indie
she's
file,
a terrible actor.
but it was an
It would
interesting
taste the
choice.
shit out of me. Sorry.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, no, it's grating. It's certainly better to make a fan edit of that than like the Spielberg edit of E.T., where everything's like jangling
We're
keys
holding bananas now.
instead of guns. Anyway, yeah, I mean, I was very much older when I realized that Temple of Doom was actually a prequel. Like
Yeah.
you expect like a sequel to
Same.
be sequential, but no, the sequel is set before the first film. Bizarre choice.
That's wild.
But fun.
George Lucas.
Well, you know, you did
I blame
Nazis
George
already.
Lucas.
You're not going to do Nazis again.
You did not see it coming.
I have a quick fire topic that I've eventually gotten around to.
Ooh.
Toys of 1984, guys. What was number one with a bullet?
Probably Motu.
1984.
It's either going to be the killer whale, or it's going to be
GI Joe
Transformer.
toys. Sorry, man.
No. Or in general.
Just in general.
Snake.
Yeah.
Of the
Your
G1
favorite
Transformers, which
He-Man
is the
toy.
greatest? Oh yeah, it was the
1984.
third wave of Motu, so you could talk about Mechanic and Snake Mountain if you want. Or
Mechanic.
Battle Armor, Snake, Skeletor, and what's his face? He-Man.
Battle Armor He-Man was probably a big one, seeing as how common it is today. I mean, when I was at that toy fair last weekend, they were all over the place. I've even got a vintage Battle Armor He-Man that was given to me. It's pretty common, so I think that
I
was a
still got my
pretty big
childhood
seller.
one.
I've got somebody else's childhood one. I think for
Sucks
GI
to be
Joe,
that guy.
yeah, dude. I honestly have no grasp on what Transformers could have been, and for GI Joe, I kind of feel like I keep wanting to say Shipwreck, but I'm just thinking like, was Shipwreck 84, 85?
85.
85.
Yeah,
I
it's
think you want to
85.
say Firefly. You want to say Firefly, Paul.
I think
What do you
Firefly
want to
was
Love
really popular,
Firefly.
but
Hell yeah.
but
Steven's going to say Zartan. And I'm going to say Spirit. I forever wanted a Spirit. We've tried many times to get Spirit. And now, thankfully, I have at least 3 Spirits. So that's cool. 2 vintage and 1 modern.
You got the
Modern
Spirit,
one
Rob.
That looks like Billy. What are
Billy.
you saying, Billy? What's the forest saying to you? Oh, he's out there. He's coming for us.
Shit behind the tree. Shit behind the tree.
I'm bleeding.
How do you know which side? How do you know which side is the front of the tree? How do you know? How do you know what the back of the tree looks like?
behind.
It's the one with the shit.
Yeah.
By the back of a
So
tree.
I think I called it. I think that's definitely what we would. That's all the stuff that we would say.
So, Steve,
for
have you
this
got an
topic.
answer for us, bro? Like,
Of course,
have
I
you
gave
got
it to him. It's
a
Zartan.
rundown?
The greatest toy of 1984. I'm
Yes.
thinking it's got to be. Well, most people would say Prime, Optimus Prime.
Oh, no ways. You.
But I remember getting
Megatron, man.
the reissue Megatron for the first time and just being obsessed with it. Like the role play of it. The fact that you have this like collapsible modular like gun system.
Yeah. And it's cool. It
Incredible.
transforms into something that you can actually play with yourself. It's not just like a miniaturized car. It's an actual, life-size pistol that you could.
People
It's
poo-poo that
2
toy
different
all the
kinds of
time.
gameplay.
People
Love that
like
toy.
take swipes at Megatron because it's a fuddy-duddy toy. But when I first encountered it, it was magical. It set me down a
are
path
these
of like
people?
buying reissue toys.
Weirdos.
And Prime was one of
Strange
them.
people.
But
I
Megatron
really
was
struggle to
the
accept-
first.
I still personally have trouble accepting Megatron as a tank.
Yeah.
Like, for me,
Yes.
gun all the way. I love that shit.
He's the Nazi officer gun. So those guys come
the
up
way it
again in
should be.
conversation.
That's the way it should be.
Volsa P38. It's a very good gun.
Which,
apparently.
who else
Um,
carried that gun?
Uh,
Famously.
The man from
Cobra
Uncle
Commander. Yeah.
Not just
Indiana Jones. He always loved that gun.
Bond.
Oh, Bond as
Bond
well,
had the
yeah.
snub-nosed version of it, yes.
The PPK. I don't know if they're the same gun. Gun nuts will probably have a go at you,
Pretty
Paul.
much the same.
Well, they're made by
I've
what?
handled the
same enough. They
38
just chop the little
and a
thing off,
BBK.
you know.
Oh, cool.
My dad had one. I know that
Is
gun
it
well.
true that you can bring the first round up by just clicking? You don't have to cock it or anything.
That's wild.
Yes, but it jams it.
Ah, damn. No
It
fun.
causes
So that's
jams.
not
So what
a
happens
it's not a
is-
feature. That's a
Yeah, so you with that little gun, you have to do the slide. I remember with my dad always saying to me, like, slide, like pull back the slide, and then my dad was always like that. Pull back the slide, make sure there's no bullets in there, for example. But when the magazine was in, he's like, make sure that you cock it, because he's like, this gun will shoot. It can shoot with that, but he's like, if you shoot it twice, it might get stuck. And yeah. And it's actually a true story because when we've had people break into the house and my dad shot at them, for example, that gun did jam on the fourth shot, because my dad was obviously tired, so he grabbed the gun, didn't slide it, just grabbed it and shot. And my dad would never keep a gun in the house in number one. In fact, he was very, very distinct with me, very, very specific with me in telling me not to touch his gun. He's like, listen, I will always show you the gun if you ask me for it, but do not look at it by yourself. He's like, this gun, you can shoot your face off. I was like, okay.
Well, it's probably for the best that it jammed, because otherwise little Paul would have to be hiding the body.
Well, my dad was a cop, dude. That stuff was like...
Dig the hole deeper, boy.
I'm sorry. I'm not going to implicate anybody, but I'm just saying that when cops' families, when somebody attacked policemen in South Africa,
you don't need to go down this route of
explanation. That's always a thing. In
Look,
just saying,
defending your property with lethal force is, I mean, in many parts of the world, still writ in law.
Except for here.
Well, yeah, that's what you get for having a constitution drafted in the 90s. But
my goodness.
the right to life, how dare that be inalienable? Inalienable.
You know what isn't awful? The next wave of Super 7 Reaction Plus figures. Oh my goodness. They've announced a whole bunch of them. And of course, Super 7 continues to do what they always do, which is lean into the cartoon, which I think is obviously very expected at this point. And welcome, I guess, because we're getting figures we've never had before.
This is what we want.
Now, instantly in the second wave already, we have at least two, that have never existed as action figures in 3.75 inch O-ring scale. Paul, what is this wave? How do we know about it?
This wave comes to us by some kind of secret announcement that I can't even remember because the internet was filled with it, so I don't know the source. So I apologize to the source of this, but I do know that Full Force. Full Force. This. Anyway, because that's where I saw the news break was on Full Force. So thank you for that. But yeah, okay. So let's get into what this wave is about. It's Duke. Okay. So finally, you have a Duke for GI Joe. It's Serpentor.
Oh, thank goodness.
Bit of a weird one to have Serpentor like kind of in wave 2 so early, in my opinion. But anyway, then you get what's his name? I had his name on the tip of my tongue. Now I have to look at it now again. Ramar. Ramar. Okay. And if you guys don't know who that is, I'm going to get into that. And then Fatal Fluffies.
You don't know what that is. Paul's going to get into that.
I'm going to get into that. That's exactly what I want to get into here. So first, I just want to address some controversy that I've seen on the internet about this. Everybody's complaining about Duke. I'm like, guys, they have to do Duke in this wave. If you do Ramar, you have to do Duke. Why? Because they have to duel each other in the arena of sport. Okay, you need this, which is I'm very hopeful that somewhere this means that they're doing some kind of maybe a play set of that arena, the arena of sport. I don't know if it's going to be. It's difficult to say because there's
it's 100% tough to say. I mean, it's early days because if they are 2-pack, then we're still missing 2 other figures from this wave.
It would, yeah, well, that's the thing. But maybe it's a 2-pack and it comes with a bit of environment, like the arena of sport or that bridge or something. Maybe this is or maybe that playset will then come with Snake Eyes, that suits that.
Oh, they come with the little headband things.
Yes. And Star Wars lightsaber sound effects. Serpentor, I think, is a total oddball release for this. But there must be a reason they're doing him now. Maybe they want to. Maybe it's just a case of, hey, you know what? Serpentor's kind of hot right now in the comic. Let's get the vintage one out there.
Yeah,
Not hot
Classified
in the
came
comic,
out
but
in the
like-
past year or so. I mean,
so
we're
let's-
building on that interest.
Yeah, so let's jump on that hotness. I don't know how that's going to go. Maybe it's a deluxe. Maybe it's not a deluxe. I don't know. Anyway, but the Fatal Fluffies. Guys, Fatal Fluffies are creatures. They're like gremlins. They're very cute. Or mogwai, should I say. Are very
Until
cute,
they
but then
aren't.
they transform until they aren't, and they transform into these hectic, furry, horned creatures that can handle weapons. It's
And
insane.
breathe fire.
Yeah,
And breathe fire.
first
Yes, I keep
introduced
forgetting
in the
about that.
first miniseries for GI Joe, Pyramid of Darkness. Yes,
Of Darkness. Yes,
I'm right. Yeah,
It is Pyramid. Yes, it is Pyramid of Darkness.
Whoa.
Third
Anyway,
miniseries.
third
miniseries.
miniseries. Well, 2
Yeah.
out of 3.
you and I
Yeah.
suck at this, Rob.
It's good enough for me. It's good enough.
I got
But
you
it's
back.
so cool to have them.
Take that
So
comment.
now, I am curious now if we're going to get, like, if the cute version of the Fatal Fluffy is going to come
That's
with
the 3 and 3
the
quarter
monster
inch.
version, because it'll be a great accessory to have him like that, because you could have that for your play. You know, you can play that out. It's like, oh, they delivered, and
Maybe
like,
that's the
in the
2
space
pack.
station or something. Maybe
It's
that's
kind of
the
like
2-pack.
a
Maybe we get 2 Fatal
beefy
Fluffies
transformed version, and the smaller
and
one.
then the cute one. Or
We are
maybe 2
talking
beefy
a
transformed
fair
versions.
bit more plastic than your standard Reaction Plus figure has been. In the
Yeah.
case of Ramar and the Fatal Fluffies, do you think we'll talk
They're
about
big guys.
well, will there be a price jump?
Oh, above what is it currently? $20, I believe. per
$20.
figure?
Yep.
I don't think
Just-
so.
Yeah,
Logic says
I
there
agree
should
with
be.
Paul. No, I mean, like Marvel Select figures, you get a Hulk. He costs the same price as an Iron Man. I mean, just because there's more
Which tells you a
plastic
lot
to
about how
produce
they
the
balance
figure.
their pricing.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. I think most toy series don't charge you more just because the figure is bigger or smaller. Yoda didn't
Yeah.
cost you less in the Star Wars Hasbro line.
No, and he really should have.
Then no, nothing's. That's the price of the figure. It's you don't
Yeah.
adjust it based on how much plastic and little, because it's just a little bit more plastic. You can't cost that much more.
Agreed. But now for Super 7, I wonder if this means that maybe Ramar might not come with accessories, or if he does, would it be chains? What would it be? I think maybe with this buck, we might see the first ones maybe packaged with less stuff. I don't know. There's obviously
in
tooling
my
involved,
opinion,
and-
I think it will affect nothing. It's another figure. It comes with as many figure accessories as it needs to. It doesn't need to come with, like, the size of the figure should not affect what it comes with. That's
Okay,
what I-
now another thing. Now, also something I want to speculate on this as well. And like Steve, that was a great question regarding the
Cool
like,
question,
will
Steve.
they be more expensive? Because I'm curious about if they're doing Serpentor this early in the wave. That means they've created tooling for him. Super 7 is either crazy or really has some strong marketing data to suggest that that figure will do well. Because what else can you use Serpentor's tooling for? Like, really?
I think they're addressing a gap in the O-ring market.
Hmm.
Version 1 Serpentor, let's face facts, it obscures the face.
Yeah.
The Serpentor that Super 7 are proposing to bring to market is the cartoon version. And if you look at the cartoon presentation of Serpentor, he's basically got the mask coming up to his chin, sort of a chin strap snake mouth, and then a kind of a hood above his eyes. But there's a lot of face, being exposed. It's not
Yeah.
buried within this skull. So perhaps the snakes around his neck will be more protrusive, like they'll actually kind of be they'll be there, be more present than just being this kind of
more
coiled up
noticed.
green blobs. So there's a lot of room to bring a
Like their
more
version.
optimized Serpentor. Because I mean, Hasbro did it with the comic book 3-packs. Rob, you've got that.
I was going to
Serpentor.
say that's a pretty.
He can
decent
remove
one.
his helmet, and I mean, unfortunately, it's a bit of a pinhead, but it's a good Serpentor face sculpt.
Good overall, yeah, and it's cool how
So-
the it plugs into his back. That's
And I
very,
don't think that figure is particularly common or widespread, and certainly doesn't necessarily fit in well with your other 1986 figures because he's got that.
plastic.
Well, it's a more comic book accurate color scheme, like with the sort of a very pasty kind of yellow. Anyway, I don't want to take shots at that one, but I think there's definitely an opening for revisiting O-Ring Serpentor. There were very few of them. So, and this is an opportunity to give us that cartoon accurate visage, which, I mean, let's face it, that's what everyone knows Serpentor from. From Arise Serpentor Arise, the second season of Sunbow, and GI Joe the movie. You've hit the trifecta of like major Serpentor references.
So it's a very muscular line. I mean, like Serpentor, I think historically is a muscular figure. Ramon is a big muscular guy. Feather Fluffers can be muscular. I mean, definitely will be.
I
So it
think
could
they're
be
meant
that
to be
within
giant.
the line itself, you could almost speculate that they're using the exact same buck, whatever that means, across all three figures, but just kind of dressing it up slightly differently. So there could be the reuse of the buck.
The people who are listening can't see the inverted commas.
I don't know
I
what
don't
that
give no
term means.
bucks.
I assume it's just the same use of the mold.
Well,
No, the buck is the body
there's
type.
no mold reuse within an O-ring line because they're not using secondaries to kind of dress up a basic body style.
Okay.
Like these are injection molded parts that are unique to each character at this
Each one
point.
has a unique sculpt,
Yeah.
unique buck, whatever's.
They're definitely
Okay.
going to revisit that Snake Eyes that they produced for the first wave, but that'll be another Snake
Totally.
Eye. I don't think those parts will lend to another character, which is as it should be. If you're doing the O-ring line properly, having a basic buck that you dress differently ain't gonna cut it, man. People want
No,
unique
I agree.
sculpt to be.
Yeah, that's how the
absolutely
original
unique.
O-ring line was done.
Mhm.
99.9% of the figures were original.
Yeah.
So
So-
you would want to see that in a new O-ring line.
So
For sure.
what I'm thinking is what they might do is like with Ramar, they could, or Ramar, whatever. They might have done like a clear upper torso, for example, and then did a mold variation to do that strapping that's going to go over him, because they might want to keep that bare chest.
So not literally clear.
No, not clear. Yeah, sorry, I
I
meant
think
like
it-
the keeping it bare
bare
chest.
chest.
Ramar, master of disguise.
See-through
So-
chest area.
But it'll be fun to see how they do that, and if because I have a feeling they might do that. I mean, Super 7 are going to try and be smart with their costing here, especially if they're rocking out a figure like Serpentor. I mean, that's
I'm going to take you up a friendly
that's
bet.
expensive.
Paul. I'm going to take you
Yeah.
up a friendly bet that Ramar will not have secondaries over his bare torso. I think, given the fact that he's a giant, you wouldn't be able to reuse that buck, that sculpt for like a
Ever.
road pig or a regular sized big dude.
No
Like, he needs to
rebucking.
be maybe like a foot or 2 feet taller than Duke, maybe even 3 feet taller. He's massive. He's this
What about
barbarian.
a
type
Nemesis
dude.
Enforcer? Oh,
I think
Nemesis, what do they call them now?
Immortal?
As the listeners may be our witness, I'm going to take you up on this friendly bet that will be he will have his kind of, I don't know, furs or whatever he's wearing, his uniform sculpted to his bare
Molded in.
torso.
Yeah, bucked
Yeah.
to him.
Okay, let me just rephrase correctly here. I don't think they're going to give us a clip-on accessory. What I'm saying is they will update the mold to. So they might have done a
so they kind of-
bare-chested
they do
mold for him
bare-chested
and then done a
mold
mold variant
on
yeah,
top
as
of
opposed to
that.
doing a whole new
Oh.
tooling.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And they kind of like scrape away the
That's how I
extra bits
understand
to
it.
get back to
But
the
actually,
end.
but Steve, stakes are kind of the same. Yeah, let's see. I'll take you up on a friendly bet. I've got a feeling
Yeah,
that
there
they
you go.
might reuse him somewhere.
Who's
So let's
gonna
just play
win?
that. That'll be fun.
Who'll win, guys? Steve
I am
or
curious.
Paul?
I am curious about this wave because, yes, we got 4 figures. Are we going to
Mhm.
get another deluxe for this series in the form of Zaymot and Tomax? So we got Zaymot and Tomax in Wave 1. BBTS exclusive, but who cares? It's still part of Wave 1. Does that mean Wave 2? Does that mean the Wave 2 exclusive is maybe one of these guys? and there's something we haven't
Or there's
seen.
more figures they haven't announced. I mean, it would be cool if each line
Yeah.
didn't have an exclusive. I mean, I'd rather have a bunch of figures than like have one exclusive over every single series, and just do exclusives when you feel you need to. I think
I
just
like
having more
Motu's-
variety is kind of cooler.
I love the Motu Origins approach, in that they did a wave and a deluxe figure for every wave, and so the deluxe because it was kind of cool because the deluxe figure wasn't much more expensive. It was like maybe I think if Motu figures were like they weren't $20. If they were $12 or $15, then the deluxe was $20. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Kind of thing. So if the deluxe here is just like $25 or whatever, and it happens to be Serpentor and his chariot or something, that could be interesting. I mean, listen, it's not going to be that. We don't live in La La Land. It'll probably be $30 to be fair, or $40 or something.
$40 to be fair.
Yeah. So let's see.
So you think they might do a Serpentor with their chariot? I'm leaning the other way. They're going to do a first, and that's a single carded Serpentor O-ring figure.
Yeah, that's what
I just feel like we're going to get. I feel like we're going to get an air chariot pretty soon. Then it has to happen because people are going to be like, we want it. Like that's the natural thing. People are like, this is the thing. Yeah, we've got it now. Where's the thing I don't have that I now really want because I have to hyper focus because I'm a collector. You know?
He hardly ever rides that air chariot. You realize? So I mean, like, do people really need to reproduce him standing on the air chariot for the 10 seconds of airtime he's on it? I think we can have one without it.
Or maybe he should come with a BET.
And I also think like creating deluxes out of new sort of things also doesn't jive with what Super 7 are doing. Case in point, the twins were offered as a 2-pack because the twins were offered as a 2-pack. Like that's how they canonically were presented in the 80s. Serpentor was offered with his air chariot, fine. Now he's going to be single carded to fit the format of the Reaction Plus, like throwback cards. Like they want these things to be a visual treat for the mint on card collector. Like they'll look like you've stepped back in time and you're getting O-ring figures on the classic card backs with the white border, the explosion, the black, the GI Joe, you know, all the furniture.
Yeah, that tracks.
I think that's what they want to give you with Serpentor. I think to put him in a box with an air chariot would be stubbing your toe. Like, give us just the man. Like, why put him
give us
behind
that nostalgic feeling?
This paywall.
And they've been burned recently with the vehicles they've tried to do. I mean, obviously they kind of overreached, I think, with their giant Cobra, you know, like snake ship.
And drastically underreached with the bloody was it the sled, the rescue sled.
Yeah. So I think maybe they would. Well, that's the thing. I think they don't know how to price vehicles yet. So I think at least for the meantime, give people figures, build that up, and then give them vehicles that those new figures can go into. I think that feels like a way to go forward. Are we excited for any of these? Like super excited? Are they ones of the secret announcement, you know, leak?
So far,
we want
for this. So far, I'm down for the full wave.
Whoa!
Yeah.
Vote with
as somebody who owns a
2012 Paul is back, guys.
Yeah, I think it's cool.
As somebody, my thing is I want a Duke that I don't feel scared to play with. I love Serpentor. And Ramar and Fatal Fluffies is why I want this line to exist in the first place. So totally getting those. Like,
yeah, those are great gimmicks, you know, and it's cool. And adding new things we've never seen as toys, I think is really cool.
That's what it should all be about.
Absolutely. I'm going to reserve my opinion until they come out, but I think our Fatal Fluffies could be fun to own. I don't see myself using them for much, playing with them, you know, in using them for almost anything, but it'd just be cool to see that on my shelf. Like, wow, there's a thing that you know, that's from the 80s, but it's now.
It's so obscure.
Stephen, what do you say?
I have such a high bar to entry. In fact, it's not just a bar, it's like a keyhole that only a certain action figure can fit. I don't have a need for a Fatal Fluffy. I'm not a huge fan of... I mean, the cartoon came very late for me. Long after I'd, in fact, stopped playing with GI Joe. I was well into my,
Well, into our
20s.
20s. I mean, you got all the DVDs. We started watching all of these cartoons. I mean, up to that point, it was just 2 or 3 episodes that existed for us. You know, Cobrathon, and that other one.
So Ramar and Feather Fluffies they're not the deep cut Sunbow characters that I absolutely pine for. So yeah, no, once again, I'm gonna sit on the sidelines on this line.
Don't worry, by 4 or
what
5,
figure will get me to dip my toe?
they're gonna like just tail this entire line to Steven. They're like, we haven't got him in yet. Maybe this line. They're slowly honing in on what you want.
Well, I think of what
4 or
you
5.
get from the reaction line, the 5 POA line. Boy, oh boy, if they gave me a Quinn in his cold weather duds, or better yet, in his like safari khakis, absolute smart bomb.
I'm sure
I'll be
that's
there
coming.
like a bear. What else did they do? They did Raven in 5 POA. She's the female sort of Native American Night Raven pilot, the defector.
Yep, and Mara. We need Mara.
They didn't do Mara,
Did-
but
did-
yes, we do need Mara. I think, yeah, females, love interests, maybe. Always an interesting wrinkle to add to your GI Joe collection, assuming they can fit in. I've yet to touch one of these new reaction pluses. I don't know how I'd feel about, having Shipwreck Romance something that doesn't feel like classic GI Joe.
You're too young. You're at least 40 years younger than me.
You're too fresh. Your plastic doesn't creak. Yeah. But we spoke a
maybe it
little bit
does.
about the
So
exciting
tight.
times that we're in terms of people who don't have massive GI Joe collections, in their midst, and opportunities to now buy things new at retail, and that is being squarely delivered by Mega, formerly Mega Blocks, but Mega, this brick system. They've made military type toys in the past. I have an Avatar set. I know they did extensive Call of Duty sets. They have well articulated minifigures that stand about the same height as a Lego man, but boy, do they make Lego men look like blocky. Lego figures, minifigures, unfortunately, look like they're from Minecraft compared to the like Call of Duty-esque levels of like articulation and posability and weapons that you get from Mega. So they are absolutely a great fit for GI Joe. Certainly better than Creo. I have not built a Creo set. This is Hasbro's in-house brick system. But all accounts are that like you better have a pot of glue beside you when you build the Terradrome or the transportable battle platform.
Really?
The bricks just do not lock very well. I have built with Mega before, and they're pretty much on a par with Lego.
That was
I'd say.
the Halo set, wasn't it?
Yeah, they kind of have a bit more of a waxy feel than the classic crispness of Lego. So there's still a distinguishing point to be made there. But yeah, they're a hell of a lot better than other competing brands. And Mega have brought immense playsets to market. The Castle Grayskull set or the Technodrome.
yeah.
Didn't they do a Technodrome?
I haven't seen. You know what? I don't have a memory of that. Maybe they have, and my brain was just trying to protect my wallet.
Well, in the Halo line, they created like a capital ship, and much like a Lego Star Destroyer, it's not one-to-one. They don't give you minifigures that kind of fit the scale, but you can open it up, and there are play environments inside, like bridge, various chambers, and that blows up the possibilities of like you getting maybe not a USS Flag, but who's to say? I mean, it's all possible through a brick system. You could certainly get smaller vessels. You could get a Cobra sub, for instance. We spoke a little bit about like the ones that got away, like classic vehicles that just did not exist in the ARR line. Well, Cobra sometimes use submersibles, be it in the cartoon, be it in the comic book. To get something like that, it's very Cobra, a submersible.
Maybe Mega Blocks can actually succeed where Super 7 failed and actually get out a Cobra mothership. There you go.
And even if they don't, even if they just play the best hits, I'm thinking of people who are like G.I. Joe fans, like brick systems, and don't aren't sitting on massive collections of vehicles already, and they're like, hell to the yeah! This gives us an avenue to get a Rattler, to get a HiSS tank, to get a Skystriker, a whale.
Okay, now it's Paul's turn.
Go for it.
Firstly, what do you mean Lego blocks look like Minecraft characters? Minecraft characters look almost like Lego block characters, like Lego characters.
Hey,
Let's
buddy.
get
Mega
the
figures
seniority
can
right
bend
here.
the knees, bend the elbows. They
Dude,
have ball jointed hips.
Probably
Waste
a
of
better
problem with-
comparison would be Roblox, actually. Lego figures look like
I've
Roblox
got
characters.
no. We don't talk about apps that indulge in child labor here. But Mega Blocks, I
Hello,
love the
YouTube.
Halo Mega Blocks. I thought they were a lot of fun. I love the way that they packaged them with the little weapon sets and everything. I do feel they're a little over designed, but it's okay. It's Halo. Halo's got that kind of look. They're a lot of fun. They're good to get into. I'm gonna put it out there. I feel like this is like, oh geez, what is it? It's almost 20 years too late. No, it's 15 years too late for me, unfortunately, for me to get excited about these. And the reason for it is because when I saw that Halo stuff in the store, and we had it here locally, we had it everywhere. It was look and listens. It was in stores that sold DVDs. That's how long ago they were in stores here. And I was excited. I was picking them up. They were cheap. They were like, $50. What is that? Like $3 or $4 or something, whatever. They were great. They were such cool, like little toys, little things to play with. They were fun. The excitement was there. I kept going, gee, I really wish they had a GI Joe version of this. This would be so nice. Then Hasbro did their ridiculous Creo line, where I must say the minifigures I thought were pretty cool, but the sets were always like a bit shit for me visually. And now that whole excitement for something like that in me is completely lost. Like I know this because whenever I would see the Castle Grayskulls, the Mega Bloks one, I would be like, oh my word, that's it's Mega Bloks. Okay.
So
Now,
you're
the whole-
definitely a deep in the wool Lego fan. You're like, if Lego ain't rebranding, taking a license, I ain't getting it.
It's not even no. It's not even that. It's the whole blocks and this type of minifigure specifically that has just died for me. Even that
You're over
really
it.
awesome line of Transformers that are those blockies that are coming out, I think they look really cool, but they're also just dead for me. Like, so objectively, I think these are great. I think there's a lot of kids who might love this. I think there's a lot of grown-ups who are going to love this. And
I think they look awesome for sure. I mean,
but also,
Skystriker is great. It comes with a nice selection of like weapons and things. It looks accurate enough to the original.
I would like to see a block maker do something other than the Skystriker. That would be cool.
Well,
some
you got to
company
start
also made a
somewhere.
Skystriker.
You got to start somewhere. Even Hasbro, I mean, with their classified, I mean, or with the HasLab started somewhere with GI Joe. They started with
It's
Skystriker.
just for me, it's getting tired.
It's an
that's my
easy
only
thing
problem.
to create, Yeah, for sure. But like
For the
they've gotta
market,
start
I'm sure it's
somewhere.
fine.
What is the most recognizable things from GI Joe vehicle-wise? It's Skystriker and it's the HiSS tank. Like
And they're
that's
nicely
just your
handled.
basis,
How do you feel about the price point? I think it's $80 for the set.
Oof. Okay, that price point is
So it
definitely
has Lego
Lego
pricing.
prices.
Nice. Hey, nah.
It comes
That's
with,
Mega
it comes with
Bloks.
4 figures, I believe. It comes with Cobra
And
Commander.
they're exquisite.
They're very
Commander's
well
blaster,
made.
his Venom blaster can fit on his back. I mean,
Mm.
at pint-sized scale, it's a pretty amazing achievement.
Well, the Halo guys did amazing stuff as well with the armor that clipped on them and things. It was...
Yeah, you poo-poo them, but in the same breath, you big up them. Paul?
I didn't poo-poo them.
Okay.
I enjoyed
He's
them.
just
I
saying
bought
his
several sets of
passion
them.
for it
It's just
is not
completely
there
done.
anymore. He's
I'm
not
done with them.
He's done with
done with it.
bricks. He doesn't like
It's like-
bricks anymore.
It's just like the Super 7 O-rings are here, and that's got me excited for
Paul
GI
is
Joe
all
stuff.
on board.
And all of this stuff,
train.
I see stuff like this, and I'm just like, they're gonna take the line up to this point. They're never gonna finish it. It's just gonna be in more space in your cupboard that it takes up.
So that's why what's
So-
worrying you is that Mega Bloks
That's
aren't
the
gonna
other
go
thing
the
that bugs
mile.
me. Yeah, but that's what bugs me about all of these things. They're always like half-assed it, man. They're just like, it's just a tip and that's it. You know,
Yeah,
it's-
they start somewhere. I mean, I can see that. Often these other companies that do like a Storm Shadow, they do a Snake Eyes, and then they're done. It's like this
That's
is
it.
as far as
That's
we
it. They're
go.
done.
It's just to give we just got the brand to be able to sell off a little bit of extra stuff. but they don't try and reproduce a lot of it, and so you're worried that you're not getting
as always is the case, guys. The power is in our hands.
It is in our hands. It's in our wallets.
Well, I'm not a brick guy, but I do have 2 boys, and there's no way in hell that they're gonna escape childhood without like a garbage
Steven has
bag
to be
worth
sure
of
that anything
Lego.
they're playing with has some sort of GI Joe.
If I can sneak it in
equivalent in
by
there.
virtue of a brick building system, boy, will I. Why would I choose to buy a fucking Hogwarts for my child when I can buy him a Skystriker?
There we
I
Honestly,
agree with you there. Yes. No,
It's a
I'm
no-brainer.
done with you there. When it comes to buying toys for kids, yeah, it's a whole different thing.
Yeah.
Like, I'm
Make
so
it Joe.
tired of all the sort of...
Make it Joe or make it no. No, boy. No present.
Nothing
Christmas is cancelled.
You better like GI Joe. You get nothing. That's my only prerequisite. I will buy you anything as long as it's GI Joe.
All right.
Maybe
just not
the
liking it.
strategy... The strategy here is to maybe hate G.I. Joe at some point so that your kid gets into it as a rebellious thing.
I don't think Steven's a good actor, but he can't act that role. He can't act hating GI Joe.
He's like,
Steven
maybe-
loves GI
maybe
Joe.
that's
too
what I was
much
What it
born
has
for.
been.
Act like he hates it.
Guys, this weekend past, I went to an old toy market quite far away.
Whoa.
I happened to be in the area. I picked up Freefall. Never had Freefall. Now I got Freefall. I don't have his helmet, and I don't
Cool.
have his backpack, and I don't have his mask.
Oh,
But
pity.
Freefall was a figure that I didn't have because, as I recall, I got him for a friend for his birthday. And that already coded it as, like, not my figure.
Not mine now.
So for the longest time, I had no affinity for him whatsoever. He's not bad. He does look like Duke, though. Paratrooper Duke, as far as I'm concerned. And his
Yeah,
file
he's got a
card is
great hairstyle.
absolutely go hard. He's like, yeah, I'm so keen. I want to jump out of planes. I want to do everything.
I free fall.
and I match with a tomahawk.
Yes, actually. Well, kind of. Yeah, look, he's great. And since I have a general in my very near future, having the sort of
needed someone
1990
else.
squad is
Okay.
essential. It's just weird that he came out same year as the Sky Patrol. But you know,
But he's not. Yeah, that is actually very strange. It's like they kind of pushed back the Sky Patrol. I mean, he was already in that line, and then they're like, "Where do we put the Sky Patrol? Okay, let's just push it up this year." But we already got a dude who jumps out of airplanes. It's fine. No one will notice. Just do it.
well, when you consider the Sky Patrol guys probably cost a little bit more at the till, this is your, regular retail price Joe
If you
paratrooper,
can't get those guys, get this guy.
and it's a new
Okay.
guy. Well, those guys
He's
were all
completely
also
brand
new
new
characters,
character.
completely new sculpt.
I wonder how many kids misread that as, oh yeah, he's called Freefall because he can jump out of a helicopter without a parachute.
For
He
sure.
didn't come with
Quite a
one.
few.
Yes, Paul, you're right.
Hmm.
I also got some repro parts from my
Ooh.
guy
Ooh.
in Spain. I needed another bat lenticular.
Ooh,
I spoke very
Spanish.
highly of him before, and maybe I should have been a bit more reserved because
Ooh.
I don't know. This is what you get
This
for
is
dealing with
not sponsored.
Yeah, that's what you get for dealing with repro stuff. No, look, I got a cloudburst visor, and it's cast in a clear resin, but it's kind of cloudy, so I might still need to buy a cloudburst with a visor in place. Because
Ooh, might have been a bad batch. The quality control, I guess, wasn't so good.
yeah,
on that.
with bootleggers, with
With
fakers.
the repro guys.
Fraudsters. No, look, it's me just being absolutely nitpicky. But his stuff was absolutely on the boil the last time I bought. Like I got an Outback lamp, which dead ringer for the real thing, cast in the same color, fit well in his leg. I also got a cannon tip for my Terradrome. I was missing one, and it's a slightly different color. And I think maybe because of the materials it was made in, maybe it was heated up in transit and kind of squashed a bit, but it's got a little bit oblong. So, yeah,
The
a
nature of
little bit
racing.
less successful this time. Not to mention, like the big kick in the teeth. I finally took the plunge and bought a repro mainframe microphone because I never had bought favorite figure of mine, and like it never comes up. You have to buy the whole figure just to get the mic, and I wasn't going to do that.
No.
So I bought a repro, and it's stunning. I mean, it's very sharply molded. I will give him that. When he's on 100%. But at this toy market, at the bottom of a box, as I was like leaving, I was like, hey, there's a box of Joe parts under the counter. Can I have a scratch through that? I had a scratch through this little box underneath the flap. Guess what I find? Mainframe microphone.
No way.
The original. It's a little bit dinged up, but it's the real deal. So that's the one that is now in my mainframe.
Well, I guess one of us is going to get that repro point.
Hey, hinting heavily. Rob, yes, it was always destined for
My
you.
Christmas, finally. I'm going to get a giant box from Steven. It's going to be a giant box. I can see it already. It's going to be the size of my chest.
Chit of plastic.
I'm going to be opening it for hours. Right in the middle.
Damn it. I should have just done it instead of preempting it. But yeah, absolutely, Rob. You're welcome to it. It's, as I say, exquisitely molded. It's a good stand-in for the real thing. That's enough from me, I think.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, Turbo Masters from the Transformers. It never comes up, but I found a final piece. It was Scorcher's missile launcher. If that makes any sense to you. 5 Transformer G1, G2 Euro exclusive heads out there. Anyway, let me hand over. Any toys from
who's this guy? Paul, what did you find? Where did you go?
Okay, so I went to Richie's Toy Fair last weekend.
Oh, Richie!
And I did see one or two like cool things that I wanted, but unfortunately I was in such a hurry that I couldn't really like stop and make a proper decision on anything. So I ended up not buying anything. But I'll tell you what I regret. There was a baggie like with a handful of Indiana Jones modern era style figures. It is Indy himself, which is cool. I've got my own one thanks to Steve. But it had a bunch of other figures. Like it had Marion in it.
Ramon.
And it had no, it didn't have Ramon. It didn't have Ramar. But it just had a whole bunch. And I just remember like thinking, oh, this would be such great fodder for like, toy photography, whatever's. I must come around here and just get it before I leave. It was $500. Went to go and see my other toy buddy. And then
the story ends.
Ross. And he had a whole bunch of stuff. Yeah. And he had a whole bunch of other cool stuff like Kenner Aliens and some X-Men stuff, some GI Joe
Everyone
stuff.
knows how the story ends.
I've sent some pictures over to Steve and Rob to have a look at, see if there's anything maybe they thought was cool. They opted not to. There's no worries. Then I looked at the time, and then I had to go. And I get in the car, and I'm on my way to Boldmead, and I'm like, oh, fuck. I should have picked up that baggie.
Oh, wait. So the story didn't end with you going back and they weren't there. The story ended with you leaving, having forgotten
because there was
that
no going back.
Bait and switch.
Yeah.
Paul just clean forgot. It was probably still there crying. It was like, hey, buddy.
I'm waiting for you.
Yeah, where's that? But what was really rad when I saw that baggie was that this guy had some Micro Machines playsets. And it was the 90s version. So, actually, one of them was an 80s one, which is the aircraft carrier. Steve,
got it.
You're
Love
very
it.
familiar. I'm also familiar. I couldn't help but every time I looked at it, thinking, I wonder if that was mine, but I know it wasn't mine because it had certain stickers on it, that mine just never had. But that they had the car wash, the little corner
Travel
car wash,
City.
and that, it's part of the but like the little blocks, the little ones, like they're just stuck together.
Yeah,
The gray base plates. That was called Travel City. Oh man, the car wash.
Not the ones that open up.
Oh, not
the ones that open
up.
Oh,
no.
The 90s one. Yeah.
Highways and byways.
Highways and byways, I think, is what. Anyway, I looked at that thing and I was like, whoa, instant memories. But it was cool to see little pockets of interesting things like that. There was other stuff which I honestly can't remember now. I just remember going, wow, old stuff, cool old stuff, and maybe I should grab whatever. Anyway, I didn't. But it was great to see such a strong vintage toy offering up here in Joburg. To see the variety and see the care put into keeping them in little baggies and whatever. And the pricing was actually very reasonable. Nothing like stupid or ridiculous, like 1,000 Rand for a toy or something, unless it was like a minted card at a very sharp kind of looking card. It wasn't insane. But what I need to tell you guys about, which I think is really cool, is my O-Ring Ghostbusters are in my Big Bad Toy Store private warehouse right now as we speak.
Incredible.
Which is like 3 months earlier than expected.
Wow.
That's wild.
And they're
When are
sitting
you
with
gonna
my
get them then?
7 O-ring Joes. I want to send them off soon, like possibly in this week. So I'm hoping that they will be here for our next podcast episode, for our
Right.
next, non-toy featured. That would be very cool. It was a nice surprise that they came out that soon because I really was budgeting for them being in February, so I had to like shuffle a few things. But it's okay. But it's cool. It's cool. They're coming. So let's see. Let's see what goes down. Let's see.
I
But
hope
that's
you
my
get
new
them
stuff.
soon.
It's intangible. I can't touch it, but I have it.
But it's on. It's there. It's coming
It's
to you.
there.
You've
I
hit
also
that time punch.
hit the time
You've
punch.
punched yourself now, and you're gonna feel it soon when they come into your hands.
That's right. That's right. Unless they
Ghostbusters
crap,
come in your
either way.
hands.
Like
Yeah.
it's real slime, smooth slime.
Mm.
And then there is something else on its way. I don't want to spoil what that's going to be because
Ooh.
I have an idea. But when that arrives, Rob, that's actually coming. That should arrive this week as well for us.
Very excited. I'm so
Specifically
excited
for Rob and
this
I. And I believe
Not
Steve's
for
got
you.
something coming on his way. Anyway, that's just from another podcast. Another very cool
Crazy.
GI Joe podcast. So,
Another
yeah.
podcast.
And that's all the cool new stuff I can talk about right now, which is actually a lot. So
That is
Yeah.
a lot of stuff. I mean, you have nothing now, but it's coming. So soon
It's
Paul
coming.
will be able to tell us about all the stuff all over again. But what we
And
can't tell
Rob-
you guys about. Oh,
yes, no. What can't we tell you guys about?
if you haven't read
What?
it, is GI Joe #1 from Skybound. So if you haven't read this thing and you don't want to get spoiled, because I know there's lots of people out there who hate spoilers. They're like, oh, this food, it's gone off.
I'm one
It's
of those.
spoiled. I can't eat it anymore. You know, maybe you're one of those people who can't eat, a week-old cheese. I don't know. But we're about to start talking about GI Joe #1 for Skybound, the series from Energon Universe. It's the ongoing. It links into 4 incredible miniseries that we've been talking about for months on end: Duke, Scarlet, Destro, Cobra Commander, and now this is the first one. This is what links into the Transformers. This is what links into Void Rivals. So if you don't want it ruined, step away. Come on back. Go down to your local comic book store. Go to Barnes and Nobles, I guess. Go to Amazon. Go to eBay. Go just buy this comic and read it.
Don't support your local mom and pop comics.
Do it. Support your parents. They own a comic book shop. Why haven't you been buying comics from them? This is terrible. Go say hi to them. Say hello. Mom, do you have the comic? And she'll say, yes, son, I do. I know how much
But
you
they're
love
all
G.I. Joe.
booked.
Thanks,
They're
Will.
all
But they're all
they've-
booked.
they're
You
all
should
in
have
everybody's
pre-booked it, son.
in
Oops.
everybody's boxes. Sorry.
Oops. Bad son.
Well, we bid you
Bad
adieu. Thank you
fan.
for hanging out with us. And
Heck
yeah, read comics
Catch
or
you when
don't.
you've read it.
Up to you.
Just do it. So, guys, Joshua Williamson, is it Josh or Joshy? Joshy's back. He's back with old Tober Grayson. That's the artist's name. Tom Riley. That's what I said.
Okay, are you guys a bit gun shy about talking about this book?
Whoa, no, I've introduced it. I want to hear what
Okay,
you
Rob's
guys have
opening
to
his
say about
notes.
this thing. Stephen, first impressions. What is this? What you? Yeah, give us words.
I feel like we've been treated by these miniseries that did interesting things, new things, and dressed GI Joe up in maybe unexpected ways. This, as a first issue for the ongoing series, was hugely disappointing. Yeah, man.
You feel
Very
like
mid.
you guys are, yeah, I could probably agree with that in a way. I think it's kind of like, what is the story in this issue? It's like, we're GI Joe. What is our first mission? Oh, we're going to protect a piece of technology in this building that Cobra is coming for, and then Cobra comes for it, and then that's basically it. That's the first issue.
Very wordy, unnecessary, like Duke's self-doubt moments with Hawk. I mean, just pages and pages of dialogue presented in kind of an inner monologue, like it's already happened, ex post facto style. Boy, oh boy. Yeah, and a few warning signs as well of like, are we in the hands of a creative team that is going to lean in on comic tropes that I don't like in my Joe books? Like superheroic shit. Like Duke jumping out of a window and catching a Fang helicopter skid, which, like, cool action beat for like a different genre of film, I'm going to say. Are we going to have like almost dumb Animaniac style fighting where you've got like several like fists being depicted by your character, and then a cut to the person he's punching having like several different like fist impressions on his face? Like, what are we watching here? What are we reading here? And I mean, other dumb shit like, and I know there's precedent for like repairing a jetpack mid-flight in the ARAR series, but I'll make the point that that was a fill-in issue not written by Larry Hama. Anyway, yeah, shout outs to those who know. If you know, you know. Issue number 20. Clutch goes home the hard way.
He really does.
He does, hey. But stuff like that, and stuff like, you know, Duke going out of a window and commandeering a Fang, but still having like a back and forth conversation with Baroness. I mean, I know you can probably no prize it by saying that they all have like earpiece radios and they are constantly conversing with each other, but like, it's that lazy comic book or cartoon writing where like, keep the conversation going narratively so that the reader is, you know, everyone's kind of having their banter as it were, but like you're still propelling the action. And I'm like, nah, this is naff. This doesn't make sense to me. This is not how I would envision this playing out. Like, you can't have your cake and eat it. You can't keep your conversation going without skipping a beat and having your characters doing extreme physical things. I don't want that. Anyway, I've said enough. Like, it leaves a lot of room for it to like impress me, but I do feel like this is a huge step backwards from what we got in the miniseries, which, granted, the writing team on this, or the team on this, probably didn't have cognizance of when they were writing it. It was all probably happening concurrently. There had to be. But like, we got so much more nuance, and this doesn't build on that. It'll come later when the writing takes cognizance of how the miniseries is ended up. But like, I felt Destro was written very basic. Cobra Commander was written kind of basic. Like, there was complexities to their relationship that were just glided over. Granted, they didn't get enough page time. But yeah, guys, as I say, underwhelmed. And in the pantheon of issue ones in GI Joe, the GI Joe world, I wouldn't be surprised if this finds its way at the bottom of the heap.
Wild. So Stephen,
what
sounds
you
like
mean? It's below
he
Devil's Due?
disliked it. He disliked this to the nth degree. Paul, are you able to balance this out with some positivity, or is this
I've got some
graveyard shuffle we're on here?
I've got some change to throw in here. Okay, firstly, when reading this book, I'm very happy to report that I marked safe from police, marked safe from moral decisions requiring a ninja to save said policeman. I've been saved from monotonous dialogue. I've been saved from zombie versions of Cobra Troopers. I can go on, by the way. The fact that this book had none of that shit is what made me like this book. And yes, I know, I think where Steve's coming from is quite valid, but for me, I felt the whole book was actually playing very safe. As Steve said, there's a sort of a convergence that needs to happen in the writing room with things lining up. And yes, I feel like, you know, Destro and Cobra Commander weren't as maybe impactful as we had come to know them in their miniseries. The Joe team is the way they are, but I actually enjoyed it. I enjoyed the art. I enjoyed the action beats. I enjoyed it for being just fun. And I enjoyed I don't necessarily enjoy things being that safe, but I thought it was a good idea for them to play it a little safe with this because, you know, there's a lot of opinions, a lot of old school Joe fans and a lot of new Joe fans, and they have to create like a bit of a medium and see how guys are going to react and who's going to respond and how, so they can build the book and sort of get the vibe for it over the next 10 issues or so. Yeah, I really don't have an issue with it. I think I'm also happy that all of the events in this comic book actually happened in one comic book and not over 7 of them. I'm sorry, small stab there, but I'm tired of that shit so much. And also, yeah, if I have something negative to say, I'm not totally sold on the Baroness's costume design. Like, literally the only thing I'm irritated about. Like, I don't expect her to be S&M or anything, and that's not what I'm asking. I just don't like that she feels like an Avenger, and I'm not big on that.
So she's almost too
this-
Americanized. It's like everyone
Yeah.
acknowledges she's a war criminal, but it's like, okay, we if we dress her up, then she'll definitely fit in with the team. So that's why we put her in the most patriotic outfit of the entire GI Joe team.
Yeah.
As it is.
At least they give it some screen time. This issue
Yes.
also introduces, finally, like in close-up, the blue shirts. And not only that, but the Vipers. You know, Cobra's gone from
And
having
Mercer.
no
They don't
army
even-
to having an army.
Yeah.
And
having
maybe
an
that
army.
was a bit underplayed. Like, there wasn't enough fanfare to the fact that, like, not only do you have blue shirts running up the steps, but you got Mercer charging in with his Viper squad, and like, this is the first time we've seen a Viper uniform in the EU. You know, maybe maybe it should have been more trumped up than that. We do see blue lasers. That makes
There
an
we
appearance in
go.
a
It's the
big way,
introduction of blue lasers.
perforating rock and roll.
Yeah, does this cut to
Yeah.
the chase? What do we think about that? So the issue ends with ostensibly the death of rock and roll. Do we think he's dead? I don't think he's dead. I would like him to be dead because of the way that panel is presented. He's very
Ventilated.
perforated by those bolts.
Yeah.
We
No, he
see
totally
the
has them
silhouette of
down.
him from behind. You see the laser bolt coming through him. So he's
Pierce
definitely
through
been
him. First cheese.
100% perforated.
As beloved as rock and roll is, I can see why they would want to lean into this as a Agent Coulson type sacrifice. But to do it in issue 1, I mean, we haven't seen this team hit its lowest ebb. They are just so fresh, so bloody green. I mean, they're all individually very experienced, but as a team, they're nowhere.
Yeah,
There's no
they're a
vibes between them yet. They can't work together yet. I mean, that was one of the
Yeah.
things in the issue itself, was do kind of like, I want to make them all like me. You know, they're not like me. They're not doing the things that I would do when I go out there. So we're just slowly
But yeah,
getting the
common floor of leadership or people in leadership positions.
let them be themselves. And they haven't had a chance to be themselves yet.
I have a 2-part question. Do you like the makeup of the team? And do you think G.I. Joe works as like under 10 people functioning ostensibly alone? Like, they had no backup for their objective. They are just them. The best of the best of the best, but still like a number that you can count on less than 2 hands.
I actually do like that
Okay.
because that's
More
generally
focused.
how I play. Yeah, that's how I like to play them up as well. It also gives
you
us
like
a
the makeup
good
of the
chance as a
team?
I don't know yet. Like, I mean, those are some of my favorite toys. You know, those are cool toys, and they're fun characters. But I don't know. Like, I don't know in the EU. Like, I don't know what to expect yet. You know, like, it's cool. Like, it's cool. I'm glad there's no Scarlet. I'm glad there's no Ninja in it. So that for me is a big plus for now. Don't get me wrong, I love Scarlet, but I like her doing her own thing. So I'm glad that she's not part of this team makeup right now. And I think we've got good, like, it's going to be cool when we have new characters introduced. We can be like, oh, this guy appears, and we have had a character introduced to us as well, actually. And so, yeah, we're going to see a lot of switching, and I don't know, I prefer it. There's a lot of stuff there that I like, and I like the makeup at the moment. I don't hate it. I'm not like anti it. I'm not like, oh my god, they don't have my favorite. I'm like, okay, let's see what they do.
I think it's
Rob,
the
do you
start
like
of
G.I.
something.
Joe being this small?
No, I would like it to be bigger, but I think that's what they're building towards.
They've
If
got
you
a
read
massive headquarters being constructed.
Yeah, for
like-
sure. That's why I think that this is the start of something. This is the core unit, And I think losing Rock and Roll will probably affect the team quite greatly, and they'll realize we need more people to really make this work. And if you read the letter at the end of the comic book from Josh, he's very impatient to actually get going and get things done. But he sees that he needs a basis for where he goes from here. And the miniseries themselves, it feels like they've obviously set something up, and now he has to keep it going after that. And I feel like these first few issues will be them kind of getting towards the team, or the kind of setup that I think a lot of people do recognize, where it is a very large team. It's made up of a lot of characters. I feel that's kind of where he wants to go. And this is just the very start. And I believe it was in the Energon Universe Free Comic Book Day comic where they do establish that there is a secondary team. We don't see it in this comic. And I feel like that new character is possibly maybe originally part of that, and he comes into this main unit of G.I. Joe. So for instance,
the suited and booted guy who's in like the nightclub asking about like don't buy Mars,
don't
weapons.
Don't sell to Mars or something, don't work with them. I have no idea who that is. They don't say his name. I mean, there's kind of like a little risk thing where they kind of like risk. I don't know if that's meant to be his name, or I think they say risk on his.
Yeah,
I don't know, something like that. I don't know if that's his name or if that's just like abbreviation or something to that effect. I think it was risk. Yeah, risk. So there is more at play, but yeah, as like a start unit, I think they're interesting in general, but I think it's the start of something. I want there to be a bigger team. I want more players on here. They almost feel like they're lacking, actually. Like you don't actually have enough people yet to do anything effectively.
Which is why it's baffling that they get sent into the field on their first mission to encounter like unwinnable odds. I mean, if Cobra's bringing in their full force, like, yeah, no, it's always the case of G.I. Joe winning against overwhelming odds, but like they just have no backup. They've got no vehicle pool. They've got none of the things that even like proto G.I. Joe, even green shirt G.I. Joe had. They had a tank. They had a bike. They had a vamp. They had a laser gun.
I mean, they suggest a lot of
13
stuff,
plus
you know.
members.
They're like Cover Girl. She designs the vehicles. She's able to do this. You see Clutch designing the vamp. So they're in the process of adding stuff to their roster. But yeah, it feels like this is one of their early missions where they don't have anything yet, where they shouldn't be out in the field at all at this point.
They're gonna get their asses kicked.
Maybe that's the point. Is they're meant to get their asses kicked before we get to see them actually rise up and be who they are meant to be. And I think in general,
then Hawk's pep talk is misplaced. You know, Duke should be cocksure at the beginning of this issue.
Yeah,
like,
because he gained that back after his miniseries. You know, he got that back. He's kind of like, I'm at a point now where I can fight off. You know, I've not overcome, but I've kind of come to terms with this PTSD that I've been given from these robots, and I'm ready to fight back at this.
It felt like a huge pace dump to give that page time over to like character development for Duke, when it's like, it's issue 1. Let's get up and fucking go, man. Like, I hate to make these comparisons, but like compared to Operation Lady Doomsday, which opens with action, like, you know, the catalyst, Cobra's kidnapping of Dr. Burkhardt, like by page 5, the Joes are on mission already. Like, it's done. The briefing's done. The questions have been asked and put down. And it's like, we're soldiers. We do the unthinkable and be forgotten. That stuff's already in the rear view. We are in it. This was it was very.
So you feel it's still too slow. It's like it has to get to the point faster, is what you want.
I feel like for an issue 1, this is not captivating me, and it doesn't tell a complete story either. It's like so much, you know. It's like everything else that's building towards the trade, which is a pity. Gone are the days of like an issue being, particularly an issue 1 of a comic book, being a story. Like Spider-Man gets
self-contained,
and
but it's
by the end of it, he's a war crawling, you know, vigilante hero. This isn't that anymore. But look, the only way to go is up, right? So I'm
Absolutely.
positive.
I mean, the writer
this book can
himself
still win
sounds
me over.
super excited. Like he's in this. But I suppose depending on the way the comic books are, I mean, I'm not making excuses, but the way the comic books are told, the storytelling, it is decompressed to a certain degree, and there's certain ways that he has to write to make things make sense, at least in the way that stories are told these days in comic books.
I just have some caveats that this is gonna feel like any other comic book, and casting GI Joes as any other kind of elite, superhuman style team of military operatives, because Devil's Due did that, but they had a lot of fun with it because they were, for the first time in the comic book medium, really leaning into the cartoon vibe.
Yeah.
So Blaylock, being self-confessed GI Joe cartoon Fundi, had no problem like playing up Shipwreck or just making them kind of fun and jocular characters with this very serious threat imposed upon them. IDW went the other way and leaned into like hardcore militaristic book, and now this feels like it might be falling between two
treading
stools.
in middle ground. Yeah, because I mean, there's obviously heightened superheroics from the characters, which I think it has to be because it has to match the larger universe that they're in. Kind of the existence of robots, the existence of Energon, the aliens, and all that sort of stuff.
GI Joe for me. Anyways, as I say, I'm putting myself in the position of the person who is able to be won over, and you, dear listener, will be able to see this in real time as we read these issues, and maybe my opinions either continue to sour or
they get better. I mean, Paul is very positive. You've heard Stephen be very negative currently about it. I think I enjoyed it overall as well. While Stephen kind of poo-pooed the kind of non-realistic fighting, I think they kind of established enough that Duke is that Cobra Commander himself was like, this man's insane. So his actions are not the actions of an average person. This is something that Duke does. And the choreography of the fight in the club, I think, was very good overall. I enjoyed the kind of the fighting that was going on. You could kind of feel the flow of the fight as it went through the pages. And
the alternating sort of yellow tones and blue tones.
Yes, the colors and just like his choice of action shots was very good. You kind of see him doing, that kind of multi-punch thing, da, 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 and then he goes back. And then the next is that kind of crunchy, like hitting the table, and it kind of splits apart. So I feel that the action is fine overall. I mean, he's still very good at kind of choreographing fights. The artist Tony.
Very Wong Chun.
Yeah. So I overall I think I'm still quite positive for this. Yes, the characterization of the characters that we would have liked from the miniseries hasn't necessarily been carried across, but I think the pacing of the issue maybe is the pacing of the issue doesn't allow for us to see those aspects of the characters. So what we've seen established is almost like you should remember, oh, by the way, he is like this. So I would agree that the pacing of the issue isn't the best. It's some time wasted on certain aspects that could have been spent somewhere else. But then again, it's a modern first issue where it should be blowing you away. It should be setting you up for what comes next. It feels like they're like, you will read this and you're still going to read the next couple of issues almost regardless.
We got you.
I think, we got you,
Suckers.
But I keep coming back to it, but the letter from the writer, he seems very excited for this. Like he's a big GI Joe fan, and he wants to tell his story of GI Joe. And I think that's what we're seeing here. And I'm excited to see what comes next. Paul is excited to see what comes next. Stephen is willing to be excited about what comes next. Are you happy with what we've seen so far? Are you excited to see what comes next?
Moments like Baroness having a shit fit in Russian and Stalker responding to her in kind in her language was awesome.
Now,
that was a great
that's what gives me hope about this book.
How could you say that to me?
Can we translate those characters?
I'm sure we could.
I actually didn't try.
I didn't give it a shot yet. I was also thinking that. Unfortunately, I will attempt it, and we will let you guys know if it's a real thing. I'm sure it is. I'm sure Josh is a big Russian fan.
I don't even think it's that. I think they just substitute English characters for whatever that was Cyrillic.
Oh, you think that's what's going on there? It's literally just translating it.
It's just a
Could
font
be
thing.
gibberish. Ooh, well,
Gibberish or very easily adapted into
it's Google
English
translated. Bloop, bloop.
You just
Copy paste.
resubstitute all the characters. You could probably work it out. I mean, if that is the case, you could work it out.
Just by looking at it.
You wouldn't even need a key. You just sort of see.
Yeah.
Okay,
where these letters.
That looks like.
Or we
that.
might just be
Like
overthinking this. It could literally just be gibberish.
Boo.
Let us know in the comments. Let us know. Have you figured it out? And we will refer to your comment in our next episode when we talk about issue 2 of GI Joe.
I mean, if you haven't read the scene, basically Baroness is having a hissy fit with Duke and curses in a foreign tongue. Stalker, being the linguist, responds with a massive block of text, like obscene even for wordy comic book writer standards. It's just a big chunk. So he's obviously making a point of making Stalker absolutely school the Baroness.
Mm-hmm.
And then to that she says, "How dare you say that?" So clearly he said he singed a nerve there. And it remains to be seen what he actually said.
Yeah, let us
Maybe
know
Paul's
what he
getting
said.
to work
guys.
translating it right now.
Russian Joe fans, come on down.
Anyways, we've been GI Joburg. I've been Steve.
This is us.
This is
Rob.
And we thank our patrons for supporting us. Thank you, Berg.
He is thanking our
for
patrons
helping us
for
kicking
supporting
all the
us.
bums. Yes, we thank our patrons.
This guy
for
right
your
here,
support
that's who
and
he
for-
is. He's the one who thanks the
That's me.
patrons.
And I'm trying to get the thingy to make it share, but you know what? Next time.
I'm
We'll
Rob
just do
too,
all.
by the way.
And
I'm
also
Rob.
just-
that was Steve. This is the guy who thanks the patrons.
That's Paul. There
Kapow.
we go.
We thank them too, by the way. We're very happy to have.
And also
These
just a small shout out to Railroad, who celebrates his birthday at the time of the recording.
Well, I'm going to give him a huge
yeah.
shout out. Railroad, big birthday happiness to you. I hope you got many GI Joe toys. I hope you're spending your time with family, friends, cake, and toys.
Yeah, he
Amazing.
probably got a Lego Bumblebee or something.
Oh,
You got something even
not even
cooler than
mega
that.
blocks.
All
Not
right.
even mega
But I don't
blocks.
want to tell people what he got because
No,
that's going to
please
take his dream
don't.
away from him.
Yeah, don't ruin that surprise.
But yeah, no, very cool.
So cool.
In fact, he's very interested to hear our thoughts on in the John universe.
Ooh, well, we've just made his birthday by giving him 30-40 minutes of our thoughts on GI Joe #1.
Yeah,
I think that's the
Darren,
best
that's
gift.
all of our pantry.
You can finally
That's
dump it in the bin.
That's the best gift he's gotten all year. There you go.
Sweet,
Love you, man.
cool.
And that's it. We're out. Yo, Joburg. Next episode, we'll be talking Toy Focus at long last. It's been a while.
Oh my goodness, what could it be? Could it be red, blue, or white? Find out.
Here's a hint.
Ooh.
It's red. Lands on its tail.
Oh, that describes at least half the GI Joe vehicles that I own.
Yep. Stellar Stiletto. Here it comes.
Woo!
Berg. Yo, Joe.
Berg.
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 I think we play this one. Oh no, we played